What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, the Mad Outdoorsman, and this is Apocalypse Radio. So, guys, for today's episode, we're going to be taking a detour from the usual discussion of SHTF scenarios and how to prepare for them. Okay. Recently, Donald Trump has decided to declassify the events that led up to JFK's assassination, okay? In other words, he's going to be making it available to the public and declassifying the documents that have been kept secret for many decades, okay? So with that said, guys, I was looking into some of the events that have happened in our nation's history that happened to be classified at one point and then declassified. And I found a bunch of interesting and controversial events that have taken place, okay? Just to name a few. Operation Paperclip, which we'll be talking about today. All right, spoiler alert. Operation Northwoods, okay? Of course, the JFK assassination, and many more, okay? So anyway, if by the end of this episode you guys enjoy this discussion, I'll tell you what, hit me up in the comments, and if that's the case, maybe I'll pick out one of these topics once a week and throw up a video, okay? Anyway, you let me know by the end of the episode. All right, so let's move forward. All right, Operation Paperclip, all right? It's a tale of secrets, shadows, and choices, okay? Choices that changed the trajectory of the modern world. All right, so picture this. It's late 1944. The Allied forces are ripping their way across Nazi-occupied Europe. The beaches of Normandy have been stormed, and the tide of the war has turned. But while soldiers march toward victory, another battle is unfolding in the shadows. It's a quieter war, a war for the future of human innovation. And as it turns out, human morality. So this is the story of Operation Paperclip, all right? The secret mission to bring Nazi scientists, Nazis, to America. To some, it's a tale of brilliance and pragmatism. To others, it's a moral compromise so profound it shakes the foundation of justice. Either way, it's a story you need to know. Not just for its historical significance, but because it holds lessons for us as preppers. Lessons about trust, power, and the price of survival. So let's set the stage. As Allied troops advanced, small teams of scientific intelligence officers moved with them, combing through records of Hitler's crumbling Reich. They weren't looking for gold or treasure. They were hunting something far more valuable: the secrets of the Nazi war machine. You see, Hitler's scientists were working on weapons that the world has never seen. We're talking chemical agents that could wipe out cities, nerve gases so lethal that defied imagination, even biological weapons based on a bubonic plague. Guys, this wasn't just a quest for war trophies. It was a race to secure the future of warfare. But as the Pentagon would soon realize, the weapons themselves, they weren't enough. Okay. What is a stockpile of nerve gas if you don't have the minds that created it? And so the mission shifted. It wasn't just about seizing weapons. It was about seizing the men behind them. And that's where things get complicated. So enter Wernher von Braun. You've probably heard his name before, right? The quote-unquote father of modern rocketry, the genius who helped launch the Apollo missions and put men on the moon. But what you probably haven't heard is the dark, truth behind his rise to fame. You see, von Braun wasn't just a scientist. He was in fact a Nazi. Not just a member of the party, but a member of the SS. Okay? He worked directly for Hitler, developing the V-2 rocket, which was a weapon that rained death on London and other Allied cities. Look it up. Devastating. All right, but it gets worse, guys. Von Braun's rockets were built in underground factories by slave laborers from concentration camps. Okay? When his projects ran short on workers, what do you think he did? Well, von Braun himself traveled to Buchenwald, okay, which was a concentration camp, to handpick prisoners to work and die in those hellish conditions. All right, so let that sink in for a moment. The man who one day would be hailed as a hero of the space race was complicit in the atrocities that defy comprehension. And yet, in 1945, as the Nazi regime crumbled, von Braun and hundreds of other Nazi scientists were quietly brought to America. Okay? Not as prisoners, but as assets, as treasures. You see, the U.S. government went to great lengths to scrub their records, scrub them clean, rewriting their past, to make them more palatable to the American public. It didn't matter how many lives they destroyed. What mattered was what they could bring or build next. So think about that for a second. Okay? The same government that fought against Nazi tyranny decided when the chips were down that it was better to work with these men than to hold them accountable. Why? Well, because the Cold War was looming, okay? And the Soviets, they were hunting for those same scientists. All right? It wasn't about morality. It was about survival. And that's a lesson you should never forget. So here's another name for you. Dr. Hubertus Strughold, if I'm pronouncing that right. He's often called the quote-unquote father of space medicine. Okay, but before he was conducting groundbreaking research for NASA, he was experimenting on concentration camp prisoners, subjecting them to freezing temperatures and low-pressure environments that mimicked conditions in space. Sounds like a nice guy. When Strughold died, his obituary praised his contributions to science. Yeah, not a word about his crimes, though. So what does this mean for us, fellow preppers? Well, first, it's a stark reminder that the systems we rely on, the government, the institutions, the powers that be, okay, that they're not infallible. They make compromises. They make decisions based in the shadows. And those decisions are really about what's right. They're about what's expedient. Okay? That's why you can't afford to trust blindly. You've got to question everything, guys. Dig deeper. Think critically. Second, it's a lesson in survival strategy, ain't it? Okay? The U.S. government they were playing the long game. They were thinking about not just winning World War II, but about dominating the post-war world. They saw an opportunity and took it. Moral cost be damned. Now, I'm not saying you should compromise your principles, but as a prepper, you need to think strategically. Always be 2 steps ahead. Plan not just for the immediate threat, but for the aftermath, right? Because survival isn't just about making it through the crisis. It's about what comes next. And finally, let's talk about the nature of power. Okay, these scientists, they were able to escape accountability because they had something the world wanted. Knowledge. That's the kind of leverage you should aim to build in your own life, right? Whether it's mastering first aid, learning to purify water, or developing the skills to grow food in barren soil. Knowledge is your greatest asset. It's the one thing no one can take from you. Now, you see how I'm tying all this into prepping? So there you have it, guys. The story of Operation Paperclip, Mad Outdoorsman style. All right? It's a story of power, compromise, and survival. All right? It's a reminder that the world is messy, that the truth is rarely simple, and that you can't rely on anyone but yourself when the chips are down. But it's also a call to action, to prepare, to learn, to adapt. Because when the next crisis comes, oh, and it will, it's going to be the ones who are ready who make it through. Anyway, folks, if you enjoyed this content, I'd appreciate it if you share it out to someone you love. Perhaps hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. And remember, if this is something that you want me to discuss maybe once a week or so, hit me up in the comments, shoot me an email, whatever, and we'll be discussing it. With that said, guys, this is the Mad Outdoorsman signing off. Remember, stay sharp, stay strapped, and stay prepared. Until next time on Apocalypse Radio.